Well, it's good to be back at the Rhine Cliff. Right, James, it's been a little while. Thank you to Fred Cartier, our videographer, who videotapes for us every month and gets us onto Panda. And also, we can download the meetings onto the website now. So if you've missed a breakfast meeting and you know that it's been a great speaker, you can go onto the website and watch the meeting online. So as Carrie and Inga pointed out, our November breakfast is going to be out at Camp Ramapo, and our sponsor for that is the Community Foundations of the Hudson Valley, so we look forward to seeing everybody out there. It's a beautiful campus, and they have a lot going on, and a lot that's available to us as community members, so please be sure to come out to that, and tell everybody, bring your friends. At this time, I'd like to introduce our sponsor, Vicki Hack, and as she said, her immediate role is financial planner, but she was our immediate past president. She came on the board, the chamber board, in 2007, and she also serves on the board at Morton Library and is on Wilderstein's Business Advisory Council. Vicki, you want to come on?
You Googled me.
That's what I did.
Right, yes. You can't hide from Colleen Cruikshank, that's for sure. So not only is Dennis a financial advisor, not only is he a newlywed, but he also brews beer. And he served a pretty awesome I Do brew at his wedding. So,
And you had some?
I had enough. Yeah. It's nice to have a designated driver. So, well, it certainly is nice to be back behind the podium. I want to thank Colleen and the Rhinebeck Chamber for the opportunity to sponsor this breakfast and for providing me with a few minutes to speak about my financial planning practice. As a certified financial planner and an independent contractor with Ameriprise Financial, I feel that I have the best of both worlds. I own my own business, yet have the support of one of the country's leading financial planning services. My clients can feel secure knowing that they are getting personal and objective guidance with all of the benefits of a full-service financial institution. Over the past 17 years, the success of my practice has been built on what matters most: my clients, my community, and my family. It is a great feeling to know that I and my team can help people meet their financial goals while supporting community organizations that help improve the quality of all of our lives. And we will be hearing from one of these treasured institutions, Wilderstein Preservation, in a few minutes. So, as luck would have it, this is National Save for Retirement Week. I'm sure you all got little Hallmark cards about that. And what was interesting is that research highlighted this week shows that consumers, which is all of us, are approaching retirement with a lack of confidence, trust, and preparedness. So we've heard there are quite a few financial advisors here at the breakfast today, and I'm convinced that they are all committed to helping you develop a plan with confidence and trust so that you are prepared not only for retirement, but for all of those financial speed bumps along the way. It's short, I promise. Whether it is retirement planning for saving for college, creating a protection plan for premature death, disability, or even long-term care needs, or securing a legacy for your family and loved ones, you owe it to yourselves to seek out an advisor, plenty here today, to help you develop a plan and help make your goal a reality. It's just really important to plan. And what better time to start than National Save for Retirement Week. So now I have the pleasure of introducing Wilderstein Preservation's Carriage House Task Force members, Wint Aldrich and Mike DeCola, who will be speaking to you about the exciting restoration project happening at Wilderstein. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here in this wonderful restoration, because that's what it is. It may be that you think it's an entirely new building. Most of you know that it is not. It's been a central piece of the business of Rhinecliff for a long time, and it's so appropriate. I think that we're meeting here both to discuss Wildenstein, but also to celebrate the economy of the Rhinebeck area and all that you do to enhance that. I'd like to start by just paying my tribute to the successive boards of Wildenstein, going back now to the early 1980s. Over those long years, the board has included members of the Chamber of Commerce, business leaders in the community. I think particularly of Bill Dowden, who I think was president of the board at one time, and John McGuire, who also was president, and many other people. And so there's been an involvement with Wildenstein in the business community of Rhinebeck for a long time that's been tremendously valuable to the success of our project. The board deserves warm praise of the whole community for its leadership in continuing and advancing the restoration and broadening public enjoyment of Wildenstein, which is, with Olana, one of the two preeminent high Victorian historic sites open to the public in our famous valley, the only one in the Queen Anne style, and surely the best documented. What has been accomplished in the past 30 years since I had the privilege of getting it all started with Miss Suckley is nothing short of astounding. Restoration of the exterior, most of the first floor interior, major paintings, leaded windows, voluminous archives and landscape grounds and trails. Little wonder that Wildenstein has become the beloved landmark of the larger community and is increasingly visited by people from near and far, a vital element in the economic engine that is our region's heritage tourism. Blessings on the donors and volunteers who make it possible, and on Greg Sokaris, our matchless executive director, who is with us today. But now the time has come to enable the enterprise to extend its capacities better to serve its own needs and those of the community. Stabilizing the carriage house for eventual reuse is not only the best way to accomplish this, it is probably the only way that fits our preservation mission. It is truly wonderful that this long wished-for project is now underway. Its completion, when it comes, will crown the restoration of the whole ensemble, making it possible to properly and fully interpret the family's life at Wildenstein 120 years ago. The carriage house is indisputably one of the largest, most remarkable and exuberant outbuildings of any Hudson Valley property, and one that amazingly enjoys a commanding view of the river, rivaling the prospects from the main house itself. Of all its whimsical architectural features, my favorite is found at the base of the massive corbelled chimney, a terracotta plaque in Gothic script bearing the initials of Mr. Suckley, and then the year, apostrophe 88. Just that, not Anno Domini 1888, but apostrophe 88. After he had spent virtually all of the family fortune creating Wildenstein, he ended with an apostrophe, and the place had to go into mothballs for a long time thereafter. But make no mistake, this extraordinary building is seriously at risk. If we are ever to put it to use for our own needs and programs and for community or revenue-producing purposes, we must accomplish phase one of the project, starting now. The price tag is a conservatively estimated $500,000, fully tax deductible. I am honored to serve on the project's task force, and am pleased to report that we have pledges or donations from every member of the task force and from every member of the board, as well as from others, amounting to a total of about 75% of the amount needed for this phase. We now begin the public phase of fundraising with this terrific kitty in place. The whole project may seem awesome, but think how awesome the restoration of the house and grounds seemed to us in 1980. And look at them now. As our indefatigable, ingenious colleague and neighbor, Michael DeCola, will explain to you in a moment, the proposed physical work will be carried out using prudent, cost-effective engineering, which nevertheless will not alter the exterior appearance of the building. The restoration of the exterior and the adaptation for reuse of the interior will be the objectives of the subsequent phases. I commend to you the excellent case statement, copies of which will be made available to anyone who requests them. I don't think we brought them today, did we?
We have some.
Oh, we do have some here, good. And also the illustrative poster boards that we did bring here on the easels. I'm old enough to remember when Mrs. Newman, the widow of the Suckley's last chauffeur, lived in the coachman's apartment in the carriage house. After she was gone and the structure slowly deteriorated, Miss Suckley, of course, wished she could do something to protect it, but had to be focused on the house, just as the board has necessarily been focused on the house in the years since. One lucky break came unexpectedly from the Reagan administration, of all unlikely sources, a rare federal historic preservation grant which allowed us to replace the roofing 30 years ago. How Miss Suckley, a faithful Republican, enjoyed twitting me, a fierce Reagan critic, about that grant. Now we are engaged in a definitive effort to do what Miss Suckley wished she could have done decades ago. Please get involved and get others involved. I promise you this is going to be one of the most exciting and rewarding projects of your experience, and it is one that will, over the years to come, prove to be a boon to the economic well-being of Rhinebeck and its neighborhood. And now, Michael DeCola.
Those are some big words describing me. Indefectible. Thank you. So I'd like to take this moment to sort of put the carriage house opportunity in a little context and give you a little bit of history about what the board thinking about that space has been. I was on the Wildenstein board for about 10 years, and they kicked me off because I was on there too long. I guess there's a limit, term limit, isn't it? At any rate, the carriage house, for most of the time that I was on the board and involved with Wildenstein, was this huge liability that was lurking somewhere a little farther down the hill toward the river that we didn't have the means or the resolve to address. It was mothballed. That grant that Wynn spoke about that came from the Reagan administration supported the walls of the building and the roof so that it could get dealt with later, saved it from falling to the ground, because it would have certainly fallen to the ground by now. So the board, in looking at this carriage house space, first saw it as a huge liability, not just in terms of it falling to the ground, but of something that would take an enormous amount of effort to restore, certainly more than the house, and was a project that was completely overwhelming. And it would get discussed in the board, and then we'd say, well, we've got to try and come up with a plan for it. This idea of adaptive reuse was an important transition in how the board was able to think about that part of Wildenstein. Because it then went from this place that, my God, we never have enough money to fix this, how are we going to do this, to one of the largest open spaces in the historic region that could be used flexibly for displaying curatorial shows of the incredible collection that's in that house. I mean, you walk through, I don't know how many people have done a house tour just in hands. Has anybody been? So several people have been. It's an amazing house tour. You go and you see this incredible house. That's one tiny piece of what's there. The family never threw anything away for 100 years. And it's all there, every magazine. And it's incredible. It's a resource that is spectacular. I know it seems totally overwhelming, right? But imagine every bicycle magazine that was ever printed from the time when bicycles were invented until they started switching gears. I mean, it's so from a perspective of being able to tie ourselves, our region, and our community to history in a way that's compelling for people to come and see. Suddenly, the carriage house became this incredible opportunity. That transition was slow. I say suddenly, but. So, adaptive reuse. I don't know, I remember coming to the Rhinecliff before James arrived. And it was one of the first times I was up here, and I had my mom with me. She said, I really need to go to the bathroom. And it was, maybe it was a Monday, so China Rose was closed, and the only option was the Rhinecliff, so I walked her in past the bar. which had 10 motorcycles parked out front and was, you know, had beams falling down, and it, you know, it was quite a different experience at the Rhinecliff at that time. Fun. Maybe not so much for my mom. Cheap beer, but the place was not some place you'd come and do this. This is an adaptive reuse of an historic structure. So what can happen at the Carriage House is, how many is it, 4,000 square foot a floor?
About 4,000 a floor.
Yeah, so it's an enormous space. And when we go about stabilizing it and supporting the roof in a way that doesn't involve these masonry walls, we suddenly free up the building to be used as a large interior space for multiple different kinds of community uses, that some of which Quint described, and restore the exterior of the building without the walls having to support the roof. So that's the idea. We're going to build a frame inside the building out of heavy timber so it will feel like a barn. It'll hold up the roof and allow us to use the space for any number of spectacular things. Some of, you know, having to do with collection, education. So that's kind of the project. When I was thinking about talking to this group, you know, of course, what is the economic reason or compelling reason that this would be interesting to business owners? I know that some of you have interest that's separate from your chamber role in the site. But just to sort of see, to share some of how I see that with that building. Rhinebeck is really good at big events, right? I mean, the fair is a big event. We have the marathon. We have all the events at the fair. So we're good at attracting, you know, big event type of things. What this building offers us as business members of the community is a place where people want to come and then come back. Once you've done the house tour at Wilderstein, unless you really love that period of architecture or you want to go look at that painting again, the chances that you're going to come back on a regular basis really depend on how much you are a history buff and what your connection to that architecture and maybe that landscape is. By having an area where we can have an engagement with the community about the collection that changes and is dynamic, and also offers opportunities for education and interaction with the community in a different way, you're building the attractiveness of that site and also its depth of interaction with the business community in a way that's really important. It's a large space. There's opportunities for a kind of demonstration of the collection and other collections that tie into the local history, the national history. The family's stuff spans every important war that we've fought, every important moment in American history. They were, and this region was, and still is to some extent, at a fulcrum of decision-making and stuff that happens in our country and therefore in the world. So how that space can work in attracting a regular flow of people who are already here doing the kind of historic tourism that was mentioned is significant. It goes from the site goes from being a beautiful spot in a house tour to being someplace that can be a focus of people wanting to come and visit because they got to see that idea, that thing in that house. And it changes. So I hope that I didn't ramble on too long and that you get a sense of how the board, and I hope the rest of the community feels like this building is an important part of our town and our region. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael and Wendt and Greg, for being here. Please don't leave without taking a look at the beautiful boards. I think that I'm so excited for this to happen. I think that I love talking to people about Wilderstein. I love saying that, you know, it's Rhinebeck's gem and everybody has to go there. It's a great thing to be able to promote, and I enjoy doing that. And so I'm glad to have something else to be able to talk about it. So at this time, I would like to introduce today's speaker, Ms. Jody Miller. She's Executive Director of the Mediation Center at Dutchess County. I'm not going to take up any more time, Jody. I want you to get up there.
Thanks.
Good morning, and thank you again, Colleen, for inviting me to speak, talk about the Mediation Center. So just a little bit about the center first before I go into a lot more detail. We've been serving the Dutchess County community for 30 years. This is our 30th year. We, as I said, we're an organization that helps people turn conflict into conversation, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how we do that in just a minute. Yep, you can go to the next slide. So we are a mission-driven organization. We provide and promote conflict prevention, management, and resolution services and education to individuals, families, businesses, and organizations in Dutchess County. So we have a very broad conflict training, education, and mediation services. And I'll also talk about some of our newest initiatives, our anti-bullying initiative and the Coalition on Elder Abuse. But first, if we go to the next slide. What is the cost of conflict? If you think for a couple of minutes of a conflict that you are aware of or you've been involved in, either with family or in the workplace, what made that conflict so difficult? And what would have helped if it had happened, or what did help? And I'm going to actually ask you for some feedback on that. What made the conflict so difficult? Anybody? No conflict?
We're very peaceful people here.
Very peaceful people.
Intergenerational stuff.
Intergenerational stuff, so differences in maybe values or ways of doing things, okay? Other examples? Yes.
Extreme philosophical differences.
Extreme philosophical differences that really can get us riled up, can have strong emotion. Anything else?
Refusal to compromise.
Refusal to compromise, so just standing your ground and not being willing to consider the other point of view and do something differently. And what kinds of things help in conflict, or what would help if it happened?
Compromise.
Compromise. Good. So the willingness of the other person to kind of meet you somewhere. So that willingness and ability to meet you somewhere else, rather than being stuck.
Having a third party facilitator.
Having a third party help you talk about those things, okay? What else helps?
Looking at the situation from the other side.
Being able to see the other person's perspective, okay? Good. Anything else? So these are just a few of the things that make conflict difficult and could help. And we know that conflict, when it goes unaddressed, can have an emotional toll and it can have a financial toll. It can affect the workplace in terms of productivity, in terms of efficiency, in terms of good working relationships between staff, and their ability to effectively carry out their goals. So at the Mediation Center, we have a very specific view of what conflict is, and we see it as a conflict in human interaction. So the way that we're interacting with others is the experience of conflict. It affects our ability to think clearly, to manage our emotions, and interact well with others. And as a result of that, we're not able to be effective or have the most capacity or strength that we know that we can have, right? We always want to be our best selves when we talk to people or try to reach out to people, but conflict, when it goes unaddressed, can really prevent that. So we know that it can be prevented, resolved, and managed. So what are some of the ways that the Mediation Center carries this out? In mediation, we provide mediation for business disputes, so things such as landlords, tenants, contracts, and a whole range of other small business disputes. For family issues such as elder, custody visitation, parent teens, and we're seeing many, many more cases of adult siblings trying to figure out what to do with their parents' home after they passed away. Other kinds of family interactions that have to do with multi-generational or extended family. We do divorce mediation, A little known program that we have is special ed mediation, where we mediate between the school and the family over the child's individual education plan. We do mediation for agricultural issues. Recently we did something with the board and staff, but it could be between two people, a producer and a consumer. We also do workplace issues between employees, supervisor, all kinds of different ways that we work in the workplace, and we facilitate meetings in public forums as well. Okay. So our training, we train volunteers and professionals. In the workplace, we do team development, communicating effectively in the workplace. We do peer mediation in schools and conflict resolution training, and I'll talk in a minute about our anti-bullying initiative. We also do work with organizations such as faith groups, nonprofits, and for-profits. And our educational presentations about the Mediation Center are all of those things that I was just talking about, and also we have a coalition on elder abuse. Okay. So some of the examples of our work: we've helped divorcing couples separate without an adversarial legal process. We've trained volunteers and professionals as mediators, either for the center or for their professional lives. We've trained middle school students to mediate for their peers. We've mediated a dispute between board and staff of an agricultural organization, taught team development skills to staff, how to work together more effectively as a team, and facilitated a number of months ago a public forum on the criminal justice system report, including the proposed new jail. So something about mediation too, and is that it is binding when it goes to court. When there's a pending court order, court action, the mediation agreement goes to court, it becomes a court order and is binding. In divorce mediation, typically there's something called a memorandum of understanding, and that gets filed with the court, and the parties do not need to appear, and it is also binding. So I think there has been some radio ads out there. I don't know if anybody's heard them, but it's misleading to say that mediation agreements aren't binding, so we wanted to just touch on that. So in 2012, 985 people in almost 400 cases of the range of types of mediation that we provide had an opportunity to consider or participated in mediation. We trained 121 youth and adults, and we reached 938 people in educational outreach presentations. So we had a direct impact on the lives of over 2,000 people. Okay. So how do we get a lot of this work done? We have a small staff of 7, full and part-time, but we have wonderful, wonderful volunteers who work very hard for the organization. Volunteer mediators have to go through a certified training, they have to do an apprenticeship, and then they can be certified to mediate under the Mediation Center's auspices. And last year, 32 of our volunteers donated more than 1,200 hours of service, and it's valued at almost $60,000 to the community. So they do a tremendous amount of work. Our newest initiatives are Anti-Bullying Initiative and our Coalition on Elder Abuse. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the Anti-Bullying Initiative and what those components are. But here's a statistic that might shock many of you. That as many as 160,000 students a day stay away from school due to bullying. So we don't hear as much about that. What we've been hearing a lot about is, what are we hearing about in the news with respect to bullying? The tragedies, the suicides. So, the Mediation Center, we started this initiative because we were getting lots of requests for bullying work. We were hearing these horrible tragedies happening in the news all the time, or frequently. We also knew that New York State was adopting the Dignity for All Students Act, which went into effect in July 2012, and requires schools to address bullying. So what is our anti-bullying initiative? We have a walkathon each April, so that we can engage everyone in the community to be part of that. We have an Anti-Bullying Youth Summit, which is a conference for students in grades 7 through 12. It's happening this year, next Tuesday. And what's really wonderful is that we have 3 of the workshops are being provided by students themselves. They're talking about what kinds of anti-bullying work are they doing in their school communities. And we just launched the Olveus Bullying Prevention Program, which is a whole school research-based bullying prevention program. And that is supported by a Dutchess County Agency Partner Grant, which is really wonderful that the county executive and the team really sees that bullying prevention and education is needed in our community. So raising public awareness by engaging the community to take action to end bullying, prevention education, And intervention, what do people do when they see it? So that's a question that we get all the time, is how do you address it when you see it? It feels to people like there's a real lack of education, training, and resources. So we just held our second anti-bullying walkathon in April. And these are a couple of pictures. We had a performer come. This is the launch, and Dr. Michael Caldwell's there. This is the first walkathon. You can see Senator Gibson was a supporter then. This is this year's walkathon, and Rob Rallison, Judge Treewasser, Michael Caldwell when he was health commissioner. So we've had really, really great support from legislators, judges. Sorry. This is a picture of our anti-bullying youth summit last year, the first one, students all wearing their anti-bullying t-shirts. And again, volunteers, staff, and elected officials. This is a workshop being led by a 16-year-old who experienced bullying since he was 13. He told his best friend that he was gay and thought his best friend wouldn't tell anybody, and by the time he came back to school over the weekend, many of the students knew, and he was just bullied mercilessly. And so he's sharing his experience here with other students who then were able to share their experiences and what they've been through, and that you can overcome and you can stay strong. At the end of the day last year, students presented their action plans, what they are going to do when they go back to their school communities. How will they bring the information that they learned at the Youth Summit back to their own schools? So as a result of their experience at the summit, some adults and students said they would pay more attention to possible bullying incidents, tell an adult if they witnessed bullying or cyberbullying, go and sit with lonely students, which is an effective strategy for helping students who are experiencing bullying, read up on the Dignity for All Students Act, not be a bystander, so do something, get more involved instead of just watching. So we launched the Olveus Bullying Prevention Program because it has a tremendous history of evidence and effectiveness. It's a whole school program. What we know is that assemblies, doing a class here and there isn't effective, doesn't work. We need systemic change and culture change, and the Olveus program has a history of being able to do that. Anywhere reductions from 20 to 70% in reports of students being bullied and bullying others, reductions of antisocial behavior such as vandalism and fighting, and improvements in the social climate in the classroom. So we just launched this program and started with Spackenkill High School. They just trained their coordinating committee. And what the program does is you do a survey, evidence-based survey with all the students in the school first before any training is done. And it really identifies where the pockets of bullying are happening, what the statistics are in the school, so you get a really good picture in your school what's happening. Okay. So moving from bullying in students to the Coalition on Elder Abuse, which is another major aspect of our work. The coalition began in 2009 after we were hearing in mediation cases, in elder mediation cases, that there were some safety concerns people had. And so we organized the first World Elder Abuse Awareness Day in June 2009, and that summer all the organizations that participated said we want to meet and talk about this because we don't know what to do. And so they wanted to form a coalition. So the Mediation Center houses that coalition. And today we just held our fifth World Elder Abuse Awareness Day in June. The coalition has more than 30 public, private agencies and individuals all working in some way to address elder abuse. We now have a Dutchess County Agency Partner Grant that funds this program, and as a result, we're able to partner with Legal Services of the Hudson Valley and provide consultation when people call us with issues. We're able to provide referrals that are very specific and help people reach the services that they need. And it's also identifying gaps in the community and where those gaps can be addressed. So we have monthly meetings, educational presentations, and we just had this fifth World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, Take a Stand Against Elder Abuse in the Year of Elder Abuse Prevention is the theme. So this is not a mediation program at all. The Mediation Center is convening this coalition to take action in the community. So that's our goal. It's a picture of the last World Elder Abuse Awareness Day and our coordinator. Oh, sorry, that's okay. our coordinator, Kathy Sheehan, who does a wonderful job. Jerry Hutchings, county legislator. And so this year we were also really fortunate to have a grant through the Division of Criminal Justice Services to provide trainings. We brought up an agency from New York City, JASA, who does a lot of work in this area, and they provided monthly trainings for the community free of charge on different aspects of elder abuse to, again, reach more people, get them involved in understanding what elder abuse is and what you can do about it. So we had more than 100 people attending those trainings from more than 30 agencies, many of them new agencies to the coalition. Okay. So I don't know if there's any questions, comments. It's a lot of information very quickly. Yes?
Have you seen a rise in bullying in work situations?
We've actually been asked about to do some work around workplace bullying, and our third walkathon will have a theme of workplace bullying because that's been requested quite a bit over the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. Yes.
What's the role of a school in bullying, legally, morally, whatever? Where can they step in? What can they do?
Well, now with the Dignity for All Students Act going into effect in July, and there's also a cyberbullying component that went into effect July 1st of this year, schools are required to address bullying, hold the bullying student accountable in some way, but they have to do something. They can't not address it. And I think what we found is that schools are just really struggling as to how to address it, that there were no resources provided with that. So we get a lot of calls about that, what to do and how to affect bullying. But what we really know is that it really will take a systemic approach to address it, which requires everybody to be trained to know what bullying is, to have clear policies and procedures and actions, and everybody in the school doing the same thing when they see bullying happen.
Is there a cost involved, like with the SPAC and Pill, the anti-bullying program you're doing there? Is there a cost involved from the school district?
We're really fortunate to have this Dutchess County Agency Partner Grant and also United Way funding. So the cost of the school has to do with purchasing the materials. So the surveys, the workbooks that the coordinating committee will need, and those things. And also figuring out when teachers or when school staff will be trained. So that's some of the things that are coming up. And we know with a longer approach or a longer view, they can plan a lot of this on school superintendent's days. But that's really what the impact for a school is. We'll provide the training and the consultation for more than a year. So we're really looking to speak with PTAs about this. So if anybody is interested, has a connection with a PTA, would like us to come and talk about the bullying prevention, or Coalition on Elder Abuse, any elder abuse presentations, or certainly more about mediation training and education, please feel free to contact us. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Jody. I know I get the newsletters, and it really is amazing to see all the lives that you touch in just many, many different areas. So if you have time, please look at their website or call Jody with more questions, because it really, really is a valuable resource for all of us. So at this time, we're going to quickly I have two things that I forgot to say before. Thank you to everybody who somehow participated in Cocktails at Sunset, either by sponsoring, by attending, donating to our amazing raffle giveaways that we did. It was a great night. We had our largest attendance yet, and I think a lot of that was due to the fact that we really, really tried to drive out there that this was, we want it to be a community event hosted by the Chamber. The lights are for all of us. It's our fundraiser for the holiday lights in the village. We all enjoy them. It's a big undertaking, and I think that our message got out, because even though the majority of people I think that were there were Chamber members, I think everybody felt more comfortable bringing guests and inviting your friends. So I think it worked. Hopefully we'll make it bigger and better next year, but it was a really great night. I was really overwhelmed at the response to everything, sponsorships, attendance, and raffle giveaways. So thank you all very, very much. And then the other thing is that for the first time, we are in partnership with Rhinebeck Bank doing a really beautiful Rhinebeck calendar with the photographs from Maureen Gates. And this is to enhance our scholarship fund. So while the 50/50s are awesome, They're not quite doing it, and we'd really like to expand the scholarship program. So these will be available 2014 in a couple of weeks. I'll leave it over on the bar so you can take a picture at the a look at all the beautiful pictures. But I'm really excited about it. We've gotten some really nice feedback. So thank you to Maureen Gates for donating her talent and her time in picking out the pictures, and then also to Rhinebeck Bank, who's helping support the project. So at this time, get out your little tickets, blue and red. Blue is 50/50, and the 50/50 today was $68. Thank you all very much. So the take home is $34. And I'm going to ask Jody, will you come draw me a winning ticket? 617-891. 617-891. I love it. Kathy Duquette, the luckiest woman I know. She plays, so she. So, Barbara, how's your winning? Your winning. Okay, and thanks to Binky Hack, our sponsor, for donating this really beautiful cutting board. I kind of don't want to. No, I'm holding it. From Living Edge Designs here in Rhinebeck, and there is a little jingle on the back here. No matter how you cut it, planning for your retirement can be the recipe for success. So you draw.
Okay. Go. 624375.
Oh,
All right. Another lucky lady.
I agree with it. Yes. Okay, everybody, thank you all so much for a few minutes over. I really appreciate you staying. Have a great day, and we'll see you in November at Ramapo.
Sounds like if somebody else will be the sponsor. At the time, we're sponsoring it, so that means that sounds like if somebody else will be the sponsor. At the time, we're sponsoring it, so that means that sounds like if somebody else will be the sponsor. At the time, we're sponsoring it, so that means that sounds like if somebody else will be the sponsor. At the time, we're sponsoring it, so that means that sounds like if somebody else will be the sponsor. At the time, we're sponsoring it, so that means that I